Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to Star Wars Mark of Balance. My name is Mark, and today I'm going to be ranking my most anticipated Star Wars projects slated to come out this year in 2026. This is an absolutely packed year for Star Wars releases. In live-action TV, we officially got confirmation that Ahsoka Season 2 will be airing at the end of this year. We have two animated TV shows coming out with Maul Shadow Lord and the Ninth Jedi spin-off anime. We also have two video games with Star Wars Zero Company and Star Wars Galactic Racer. But of course, the biggest release of the year, and hopefully a triumphant return to theaters for Star Wars, is the Mandalorian and Grogu movie set to release in May, almost 7 years after The Rise of Skywalker was in theaters. As always, after doing these types of episodes for almost 5 years now, I go into every year of Star Wars cautiously optimistic, because I've seen projects that I was so excited about fall flat on their face, like the Obi-Wan series or the Acolyte, and I've seen projects I had no interest in or didn't even know why they were making it turn into my favorite Star Wars stories ever, like Andor. So while I hope it's the latter this year and that some of these projects that I'm very worried about take me by surprise, I am also very prepared to be let down. I discussed this during my year in review episode for 2025, but it does feel like there is a shift within Disney and how they are developing projects, how they're announcing them, and hopefully how they're releasing them. I'm hoping that 2026 is an affirmation of that sentiment and that Disney is turning a new leaf when it comes to Star Wars, but as always, we'll have to wait and see. So today I'm going to be ranking the 6 projects that I mentioned in my intro, from my least anticipated to my most anticipated. And I'll preface this all by saying that even though some projects are high on my most anticipated list, they're not necessarily the projects I'm most excited for. I'm more so just curious how they're going to turn out, because they have a lot of big implications for Star Wars moving forward. And I think that kind of gives away some of my high ranking things here, but I just wanted to make that clear up front. Alright, so starting my ranking at number 6, I have Star Wars Galactic Racer, the newly announced Star Wars racing game. I'm personally not the biggest racing game fan. I'm a casual Mario Kart player. Back in the day, I would play the NASCAR games, but I would just turn the car around from the starting line and cause huge pile-up crashes after the first lap. That's really the extent of my exposure to racing games. But I like what I'm hearing about this one. It's supposed to be a run-based game, which means that each run will be different. You'll be offered new upgrades, new vehicles. You might race different people on different planets. And it'll be more closely related to a roguelite, similar to Hades, Balatro, and a lot of other games in that genre that is really blowing up. And I really love that genre, so that's why I'm excited for this one. But personally, when I compare it to the other projects on this list, I have to put it at the lowest spot, but I'm still very much looking forward to it. I'm hoping to see some gameplay soon. I know some people are worried that there aren't going to be pod racers in it, even though the reveal trailer ends with Sebulba and the sound of his pod racer. I just think the big pod races are going to be the final levels. Those are going to be the big races you have to earn a spot to get into. Next up at number 5, this one was tough, but I had to put the Ninth Jedi spin-off series here. This is the first full-length Star Wars anime story, and it should be much higher on my list. When it was announced, it was probably my 1 or 2, but unfortunately, with the release of Star Wars Visions Volume 3, the sequel to The Ninth Jedi, titled Child of Hope, was very disappointing to me, and it was mostly from an animation perspective. The story was still cool, there was some great world-building elements, it did feel like a very fresh take on the Star Wars galaxy, but there was a lot of issues with the animation. There was a lot of CGI used. The art style for the characters felt different than the Ninth Jedi, and all of that threw me off a bit, and it made me worried for the full-length series. If you're an anime fan, you know the horror stories that have plagued the industry over the years of amazing anime that have great first seasons, and then the animation quality drops off a cliff. We just recently had it with One Punch Man. Season 3 wasn't even animated. It was just PNG files and the occasional animated frame. It also happened with The Promised Neverland. I absolutely adored the first season of that show, but then the second season did not take the time to actually tell the full story. and it just skipped right to the ending. This happens when the studios don't invest enough time and money into the animators. I bring all this up to show that it's common. It's happened before, and even the biggest IPs can succumb to it. So when I started to see the signs with the Ninth Jedi sequel, I got nervous. I'm hoping they were forced to throw together a sequel to put into Volume 3 to get people hyped up for the release of the full series this year, and that's why it felt like it wasn't complete. This is a talented animation studio. The director has had this story planned out since Volume 1, so we know he's passionate about it. And anime is bigger than it's ever been before, so Disney better invest the time and money into this series to make it as good as it can be, because they have such a great opportunity to recapture so many Star Wars fans that have left over the years. If they do pull this off, though, it's going to feed families. A peak anime Star Wars series is something that Disney desperately needs, and the world desperately needs, honestly, because I think the combination of Star Wars and anime is too perfect. Next up at number 4, I think some people will be surprised I have this low because I'm such a big fan of animation, but Maul Shadowlord is sitting at my number 4 spot for most anticipated of the year because I don't know if Maul can carry a show. I talked about this in my year in review episode, but Darth Maul is an incredible supporting character. He is a great antagonist throughout several generations of Star Wars characters, but sometimes too much of a good thing is not good. There have been plenty of examples in the past of sidekicks or supporting characters getting spin-off series or spin-off movies because they're so popular, and then the magic isn't there anymore because they're not able to bounce off the characters that made them great in the first place. In the case of Maul, he's such a great character because he's a perfect foil for Obi-Wan. He is the ultimate test of Obi-Wan's strength of will and his ability to continually turn away against the dark side. Obi-Wan has every reason and every right to take vengeance against Maul, but he never does. With Ahsoka in the Siege of Mandalore arc, Maul not only acts as an expositional tool to discuss Palpatine's plans and ultimately Anakin's role in those plans to Ahsoka, but he also is a perfect parallel for her. They're both these discarded Padawans that now operate independently outside of the organizations that brought them up. I'm very curious how they're going to fill that hole. Either they're going to have to make Maul a more round character and really build out some more emotional intelligence with him, or they're going to need a very strong ensemble of characters so that all the pressure isn't on Maul to drive the story and be the most interesting one in the room. And I'm sure that's probably the route they're going to take. Sam Witwer is a Star Wars encyclopedia, or a Star Wars holocron if you want to be nerdy about it. He's so passionate about this IP, he knows it so well, and he's very much involved in a lot of these conversations. So I have faith in that regard, and I do like that they're probably going to be leaning a lot more into the darker tone of Star Wars animation as compared to shows like The Bad Batch, Rebels, and Clone Wars, which kind of balance tones and sometimes lose that balance, like in The Bad Batch. I don't think Maul Shadowlord will have that problem. I'd be shocked if it does. But right now, I don't have a trailer to go off of. I'm excited at the prospect of this show, but I do have a lot of potential concerns going into it. So that's why it's at my number 4. At number 3, I have the other video game that is slated to release next year, Star Wars Zero Company. This is a turn-based strategy game, and while I don't have a lot of exposure to this genre of games, the fact that this is made by BitReactor, who created the SOCOM series, a series of games that are so highly regarded in the video game community, it gives me a lot of trust that these are the masters of their craft when it comes to this genre, and that they'll be able to translate that gameplay to a Star Wars universe. Additionally, they're going to be telling a story during the Clone Wars era, probably my favorite era of Star Wars. It's going to be dealing with covert ops. We have a very interesting group of characters that you wouldn't expect to be working together. We have a Mandalorian, we have an Umbaran, we have a clone, we have a Jedi, and it seems like we're going to be playing an outlaw-type character who's put in charge of this crew of characters by the Republic to carry out these secretive missions. That sounds like an excellent jumping off point for a story. There can be a lot of conflict between the characters. They've said that character choice is going to be paramount to the experience, so You might lose these characters permanently if you mess up in gameplay, so it adds a weight and a stakes to every decision you make. It also makes the game really replayable. And because you have so much player agency, you'll really care about the relationships that you form between characters. And I hope that it's very similar to the one that I got from the Mass Effect series. Again, we haven't seen full gameplay for this game outside of very, very short clips. So I'm just going based on what the developers have told us and the tone of the trailer that they showed. All the characters are also fully customizable, and they did show a very expansive galactic map that will be able to jump around and do different missions at different corners of the galaxy, which is really cool. The only concern I have for this one is it might get delayed because we haven't heard a lot about it since its announcement, and the fact that it wants to tell a canon story during the Clone Wars, but you're also going to have a lot of player agency. So I don't know how they're going to do that balancing act of having a definitive canon story told, but also be very dependent on different players' choices. I honestly think Star Wars video games should get a bit of a pass when it comes to canon, and they already sort of do. So I'm okay if they're a bit lenient with the story here. So yeah, I've liked what I've heard about Zero Company so far, and that's why I have it at number 3. All right, down to the final 2. At number 2, I have the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. I'll be honest, I am very nervous for this film. I've been very vocal about my opinion on how this film came together and why it was chosen as the next Star Wars film to come out in theaters after The Rise of Skywalker. I think after years of nothing, Disney panicked and said, we need to put something in the movie theaters, and The Mandalorian is our most profitable and most recognizable thing that we've done with Star Wars. And instead of doing a season 4, we should take all the scripts we have for those episodes and chop it, condense it, and combine it into a movie to release in theaters. I'm personally very passionate about the intentions behind a creative project. And I don't get the sense that the idea for a Mandalorian and Grogu movie came from a creative place. That's not to say that there aren't amazingly talented artists working on this film, on set, in post-production, Dave and John writing the film. It just doesn't feel like Dave and John went to Disney and said, we want to make a Mandalorian and Grogu film. It feels like the executive board of Disney went to Dave and John and said, you need to make a Mandalorian film. And I think that distinction is very important. My feelings about that were then reinforced when I watched the first trailer for this film, and it looked like the season 4 of The Mandalorian. The lighting was very flat and TV-like. It didn't have that cinematic grandeur that I would have hoped for the next Star Wars project in theaters, especially after so many years of waiting. Outside of that, Mandalorian Season 3 was a huge letdown and really killed the momentum of the series. So we're not exactly starting this film on a high point. I'm also curious how consequential this film will actually be. Is this going to be a 2-hour-long fun adventure with Mando and Grogu fighting the Imperial Remnant and maybe some underworld creatures and thugs along the way? Or is there a bigger picture here? We saw that Thrawn was able to escape the other galaxy at the end of Ahsoka Season 1, and now he's back in the known galaxy and will likely assume control of the entire Imperial Remnant. Will Grogu and Mando slowly discover as they're investigating and fighting the Imperial Remnant that he has returned and that he is this big threat? Maybe that is the final act of this movie, or maybe that's just the final 5 to 10 minutes of them discovering this, and it sets up a big explosive start to Ahsoka Season 2. I really don't know. You're probably wondering why I have this at number 2 on my most anticipated list if all I've said so far are negatives. And it's because I'm anticipating what this movie is going to be. I am so curious how this is going to turn out and how I'm going to feel in the theater that day. Seeing new Star Wars on the big screen is an exciting feeling. It's something we haven't had in almost 7 years. We've just been seeing re-releases of old films in theaters. So that's really the big driving force as to why I have this so high on my list. This is also make or break time for Disney. If this movie flops, I don't even know how they will react. There's a lot riding on this movie, as you can see, and that's why I have it at number 2 on my most anticipated. I am very eagerly awaiting a second trailer for this film. I hope it's a lot better than the first one, because I want to be excited for this movie, because I'm excited for this movie, not because it's a new Star Wars movie in theaters, if that makes sense. All right, at number 1, as you could probably guess already, I have Ahsoka Season 2. Now, similar to The Mandalorian and Grogu, I'm not going to be overly positive about the Ahsoka series because I think Season 1 as a whole was a bit of a letdown, and the more I've sat with it, the less fondly I look back on it. There are some great moments throughout the series, like the Baylan-Ahsoka fight and Sabine's decision at the end of that episode to give up the star map to them. Of course, the episode with Anakin and Ahsoka training and going through flashbacks in the World Between Worlds. And the score from Kevin Kiner is incredible. The tracks Hyperspace Jump and Epilogue Part 2 are still in rotation for me and still give me chills because I think they are so good. They incorporate all the themes that Kevin Kiner has built up over the years, and they apply them to the series so well. But outside of that, the pacing through the first couple episodes isn't great. The writing is laced with conveniences. The depiction of Thrawn at the end of the season is very, very disappointing. He's supposed to be the smartest guy in the room, but his tactics would say otherwise. While I like Lars's portrayal of him and the voice is still iconic, I'm only intimidated by Thrawn because I know him from the books, but I don't think that's what's shown. Some people defend him because they're like, oh, he gets away in the end. That's how he wins. He was able to stall enough. But that's such a weak argument because it was 3 characters against an entire undead army and a Star Destroyer and Dathomir witches, and he still barely made it out by the skin of his teeth. That doesn't exactly instill fear in me that he can't stop 3 Jedi when he has all this time for preparation. And for people who have never seen Thrawn before, and this was their introduction to him, I can't exactly see them being like, oh yeah, this is one of the best Star Wars villains ever. I totally understand that now. So I am going into Season 2 with a lot of reservations, but there are some things that I am hopeful for. The first thing is the fact that they've said that this is going to be an all-out war for this season. There's going to be a war going on in the known galaxy with Hera and Ezra and the New Republic fighting against Thrawn, the Imperial Remnants, and potentially a army of the undead, while also having another POV on Peridia still with Ahsoka, Sabine, Baylan, Shin, and the Mortis gods. That already gives me confidence that the pacing will be a lot better because there will just be more things going on, more interesting things going on. The second thing is Dave Filoni having a season under his belt now in live action. Obviously, a lot of people have turned on Dave Filoni over the years, and I can understand to a degree why, but I do think he has gained a lot of experience from Season 1 being the full showrunner and writer of that season. I think if you are a Dave Filoni fan, you know that he does not start out very strong in a lot of his shows, but he does end extremely strong. And I'm hoping that's the case with Ahsoka Season 2 at least. Finally, as I mentioned, the Mortis gods are coming into play, which brings a level of mysticism to the season that I think Star Wars really hasn't had in a while, especially around the Force. Season 1 had some of it related to the Night Sisters and Ahsoka, obviously going into the World Between Worlds, but it feels like we can break some new ground here within the Force, and it's been a long time since we've done that. So despite all the negatives, and also Sabine being a Jedi, still don't like that at all. I think the Darksaber episode was fantastic because it showed that Jedi principles could be taught to a non-Force user, and that's why it was beautiful. I don't know why they continued that to the point of her being a full-on Jedi and pushing Ezra 50 feet across the chasm. I really, really don't like that. But despite all that, for the reasons I just listed, I think there is a lot to be hopeful for with Ahsoka Season 2. It's the only live-action show we have going on right now, so I think that also has brought a lot of stress off of Disney and the creative teams because they're not juggling all these different shows like they were when Season 1 first aired. But again, this could all be copium, and I could be making excuses, and Season 2 will be very similar to Season 1 and have all the same issues. That very much could be the case. But until then, I will hold out hope that Ahsoka Season 2 delivers a much better season than Season 1, and Dave Filoni can earn back some love from longtime fans and fans that are still getting used to him. So that's my list for my most anticipated projects for 2026. Please let me know below what your most anticipated project is for the year. It's going to be a big year, a lot of releases, a lot of things to be excited for. Hopefully this is a turning point for Star Wars, but we won't know until we have all of these different things in our hands and we're able to watch and experience them. But for now, thank you for watching and experiencing this episode. I really appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, do all the things, follow on social media, and as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and may the Force be with you. Peace.